Admiral Kane Morrison stood in front of the huge star map on his ship. The lights from thousands of stars reflected on his face as he studied the charts. His ship, the Dominion's Edge, was the biggest warship in the Zeltharian Imperial fleet. Behind him, dozens of other massive ships waited for his orders. "Sir, we are ready to move toward the new sector," said Captain Vex Thaldris, an old officer who had served the Empire for many years. "The target world is listed as Terra 3 in our records. Intelligence says it has primitive beings with basic technology." Morrison nodded slowly. The Empire had been growing for thousands of years, taking over world after world. This was just another routine mission. The beings on Terra 3 would join the Empire as servants, just like all the others before them. But Vex Thaldris looked worried. He had been reading old files in the Imperial Library, trying to learn about this sector of space. What he found made him very concerned. "Admiral," Thaldris said carefully, "I found some strange records about this area. They are very old, from a time we call the Great Silence." Morrison turned around. "The Great Silence? That was 50,000 years ago. Those records are just stories." "Perhaps, sir, but the warnings are written in many different languages. All of them say the same thing. They warn about the third world from the star. They say not to wake the sleeping giants." Morrison laughed. "Sleeping giants? You are worried about old stories, Thaldris. Look at our fleet. We have enough ships to destroy 100 worlds. What could some primitive beings do against us?" Far away, on the planet Earth, Dr. Lisa Parker was working in the cold snow of Antarctica. She was digging carefully in the ice, looking for old things buried deep underground. Her team had found something very strange. "Professor Sullivan, come look at this," she called to her partner. Greg Sullivan hurried over to see what she had discovered. In the ice was a piece of metal unlike anything they had ever seen. It was smooth and seemed to glow with a soft blue light. When Lisa touched it, the metal became warm and patterns appeared on its surface. "This is impossible," Greg said, staring at the object. "According to our tests, this metal is older than human civilization. But look at how perfect it is. No rust, no damage." Lisa picked up the metal piece. Suddenly, images appeared in her mind. She saw star maps, strange symbols, and pictures of beings she did not recognize. The images showed battles in space and warnings written in lights across the sky. "Greg," she whispered, "I think someone has been watching Earth for a very long time." Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Torres was working at the Earth Defense Station Meridian, which orbited high above the planet. His job was to watch space around Earth and look for anything unusual. He had been doing this job for 10 years and had never seen anything interesting. That changed today. "Captain, I am reading some very strange energy patterns at the edge of our solar system," said Lieutenant Karen Hayes, his communications officer. "There are big objects appearing near Pluto." Torres looked at his screens. The readings showed massive ships, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They were just sitting there, not moving, as if they were waiting for something. "How many ships?" Torres asked. "At least 50, sir. Maybe more. They appeared out of nowhere." Torres felt cold fear in his stomach. Earth had always wondered if there was other life in space. Now they had their answer, and it did not look friendly. Back on the Imperial flagship, Admiral Morrison was reading reports from his scout ships. What they told him was confusing. "Sir, the planet has only one intelligent species," reported Commander Dana Foster, "but our scans show they have technology we do not understand. There are structures built throughout their star system." Morrison frowned. "What kind of structures?" "Mining operations in the asteroid belt, bases on several moons, energy readings that suggest they control nuclear fusion." "Sir, these beings are not as primitive as our records suggested." Morrison waved his hand. "It does not matter. We have conquered species with fusion technology before. Order the fleet to advance. We will demand their surrender first, as is proper. If they refuse, we will show them the power of the Empire." Dr. Parker and Greg Sullivan worked through the night, studying the strange metal object. As they learned more, they realized it was not just metal. It was some kind of computer, storing vast amounts of information. "Lisa, look at this," Greg said, pointing to symbols on his screen. These star charts match what our telescopes see, but they show things we have never detected. Hidden bases, defensive weapons, ships that can travel between dimensions. Lisa stared at the data. Greg, I think this is a gift. Someone left this here for us to find when we were ready. But who? And why? Before she could answer, alarms began ringing throughout their base. Emergency messages flooded their communication system. Unknown ships had been detected in the outer solar system. First contact protocols were being activated. Captain Torres received orders from Earth Command. He was to take his fastest ship and try to communicate with the alien visitors. As his crew prepared the ship Valiant for launch, Torres wondered if humanity was ready for what was coming. In the Imperial fleet, Admiral Morrison gave his final orders. Tomorrow they would make contact with the beings of Terra 3. He expected them to surrender quickly when they saw the power of his ships. Bex Thaldris sat alone in his quarters, reading the ancient warnings one more time. Do not wake the sleeping giants, he whispered to himself. The third world burns brightest. He had a terrible feeling that the Empire was about to make the biggest mistake in its long history. Admiral Morrison's huge fleet moved slowly toward the inner part of the Earth's solar system. His ships looked like metal cities floating in space, each one carrying thousands of soldiers and enough weapons to destroy a moon. Sir, our sensors are picking up more activity than expected, reported Commander Dana Foster. There are mining operations throughout the asteroid belt. The energy readings from their planet are much stronger than our first scans showed. Morrison looked at the data with growing surprise. The beings on this world had built structures everywhere in their star system. They had bases on multiple moons and were using controlled nuclear fusion on a massive scale. Still, Morrison said, they are just one small world. Look at our fleet. They will surrender when they see our power. Captain Ryan Torres launched from Earth Defense Station Meridian in his ship, the Valiant. With him came Dr. Alex Chen, who was an expert in languages, and Colonel Steve Martinez, a military advisor. Their mission was to make peaceful contact with the alien visitors. As they flew toward the meeting point near Jupiter, Torres felt nervous. Humanity had dreamed of meeting other intelligent life for hundreds of years. Now it was happening, and he was not sure Earth was ready. Captain, said Dr. Chen, I have been studying the radio signals from their ships. Their language is very complex, but I think I can translate basic ideas. The meeting took place in the empty space between Jupiter and its moons. The human ship Valiant was tiny compared to Admiral Morrison's flagship, like a small boat next to a mountain. Commander Helen Brooks was leading the human diplomatic team. She had been chosen because she was calm under pressure and good at solving problems. As the alien ship approached, she tried to stay confident. This is Commander Brooks of the Earth vessel Valiant, she said over the radio. We come in peace to establish communication with your people. Admiral Morrison appeared on the screen. He was tall, with gray skin and sharp features. His uniform was covered with medals and symbols of rank. I am Admiral Morrison of the Zeltharian Imperial Fleet, he said in a voice that sounded bored. You will surrender your world immediately and accept integration into our empire as a client species. The humans looked at each other in shock. There was no greeting, no attempt at friendship, just a demand for complete surrender. I am afraid that is not acceptable, Commander Brooks replied calmly. Earth is an independent world. We are willing to discuss peaceful relations, but we will not surrender our freedom. Morrison laughed, a cold sound that made the humans uncomfortable. You do not understand. This is not a negotiation. This is a command. Your species will serve the Empire, or you will be destroyed. Colonel Martinez leaned forward. We have been monitoring galactic communications for decades, Admiral. We know what happens to client species in your empire. We know about the slave labor, the forced relocations, the destruction of cultures. Earth will never accept such terms. Morrison's expression changed to anger. You dare to refuse the Empire? You are primitives who have barely left your own world. I will show you what happens to those who defy us. Without warning, Morrison ordered one of his ships to fire on one of Jupiter's smaller moons. A beam of energy shot out from the alien vessel and struck the moon. The humans watched in horror as the entire moon exploded into pieces. "That is the power of the Empire," Morrison said. "Surrender now, or your world will suffer the same fate." But Commander Brooks did not look afraid. Instead, she smiled. "Colonel Martinez, please show our guests what happens when someone threatens Earth." Colonel Martinez pressed a button on his console. "Activating Titan defense platform," he said quietly. Near Jupiter, what looked like a simple communication satellite suddenly changed. The small device opened like a flower, revealing complex machinery inside. Energy began to build up in its core, creating a bright blue glow. "What is that?" Morrison demanded. But before anyone could answer, the device fired. A beam of pure energy, thinner than a pencil but incredibly powerful, cut through space. It hit Morrison's flagship exactly in the middle and sliced the massive ship in half, like a knife cutting through paper. The two pieces of the ship drifted apart slowly, with atmosphere and debris spilling out into space. Morrison barely escaped to another ship, his face filled with shock and rage. Half of his crew was dead, and his most powerful warship was destroyed by what he had thought was a simple communication device. "Impossible," he whispered. "How did primitives create such a weapon?" Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Parker was making an incredible discovery in Antarctica. The metal object she had found was revealing more of its secrets. As she studied it, she realized it was much more than just an ancient artifact. "Greg, look at this," she called to Professor Sullivan. "The device is showing me images of beings who visited Earth long ago. They called themselves the Architects. The images showed tall, peaceful beings who had come to Earth when humans were still living in caves. The Architects had studied early humans and found something special in them. Humans had a unique combination of creativity, determination, and the ability to work together when faced with danger. The Architects left this technology for us," Lisa said in amazement. "They knew that someday we would need it to defend ourselves." "But why us?" Greg asked. "What made humans so special?" More images appeared showing the Architect's explanation. Most intelligent species in the galaxy became either too aggressive or too peaceful. The aggressive ones destroyed themselves in wars. The peaceful ones were easily conquered by others, but humans had found a balance. They could be peaceful when possible, but fierce when threatened. In space, Admiral Morrison's surviving ships were retreating toward the edge of the solar system. He was sending urgent messages to the Imperial capital, reporting that the humans had weapons that could destroy Imperial ships with ease. Emperor Valdris Keth received Morrison's report with disbelief. "You were defeated by primitives? How is this possible?" "Your Majesty, they are not primitives," Morrison replied. "Their technology is unlike anything we have seen. They made one of our battleships disappear with a single shot." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. The Zeltharian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years by conquering weaker species. The idea that some unknown world could challenge them was unthinkable. "Gather the war fleets," the Emperor commanded. "If these humans want to fight, we will give them one they will never forget." Captain Torres returned to Earth with news of the failed meeting. As he reported to Earth Command, he could see that the leaders were not surprised. They had been expecting this. "Captain," said President Catherine Walsh, "please tell the Admiral that Earth is not defenseless. We have been preparing for this day for a very long time." "Preparing, Madam President?" "For over 200 years, we have known that other intelligent life existed in the galaxy. We have been watching and learning. When they come back, they will discover that Earth is not the easy target they think it is." As the human and alien fleets prepared for a larger confrontation, both sides made critical errors in judgment. The Empire still believed they were facing primitives who had gotten lucky. The humans thought they understood what they were facing. Neither side realized that the coming battle would change the entire galaxy forever. President Catherine Walsh stood before the United Earth Council, in a room deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. Representatives from every nation on Earth watched as she prepared to reveal secrets that had been hidden for over 2 centuries. "Members of the Council," she began, "today we face the greatest threat in human history, but we are not helpless. For 200 years, humanity has been preparing for this moment. The giant screen behind her lit up, showing images of space installations that nobody in the room had ever seen before. Massive structures built inside asteroids, hidden bases on the far side of the moon, and ships that seemed to bend light around themselves. In 1823, our first deep space telescopes detected alien scout ships at the edge of our solar system. President Walsh continued. We realized that contact was inevitable, so we began Project Prometheus, the largest secret program in human history. Director Nathan Cross stepped forward. He was a thin man with gray hair who had spent his entire life working on humanity's defense. Project Prometheus has 3 simple goals, he said. Learn everything we can about potential threats, develop technology to defend Earth, and make sure that when first contact happens, we are ready. In another part of the galaxy, Captain Ryan Torres was leading a dangerous mission. His ship, Nightfall, was unlike any vessel Earth had ever publicly revealed. It could bend light around itself, becoming completely invisible. It could also travel through dimensions that normal ships could not reach. Torres and his team were sneaking into a Zeltharian border station to learn more about the Empire. What they discovered was both helpful and terrifying. Captain, reported Lieutenant Karen Hayes, I have accessed their central computer. The Zeltharian Empire controls over 40,000 worlds. They have been expanding for 10,000 years. Torres studied the information on his screen. The Empire was vast beyond imagination. They had billions of ships and trillions of soldiers. But as he read more, he found something interesting. Look at this, he said to his team. The Zeltharians themselves have not invented anything new in thousands of years. All their technology comes from species they have conquered. Lieutenant Hayes nodded. It makes sense, sir. When you can just take technology from others, why bother creating your own? This was valuable information. The Empire was powerful but not creative. They depended on conquered worlds to solve their problems and develop new weapons. Back on Earth, General Patricia Hayes was preparing the planet's orbital defenses. She stood in a command center that most people believed was just a weather monitoring station. In reality, it controlled weapons that could destroy entire fleets. General, reported Colonel Steve Martinez, Imperial scout ships are probing our outer defenses. They are trying to map our capabilities. General Hayes smiled. Let them look. They will only see what we want them to see. The Imperial scouts thought they were detecting normal space stations and communication satellites. They had no idea that every asteroid in the belt had been hollowed out and filled with weapons. They could not see the gravity generators hidden throughout the solar system or the dimensional gates that could bring reinforcements from anywhere instantly. On the Imperial side, Field Marshal Drac Voren was studying reports from the scout missions. Unlike most Imperial officers, Voren was smart and careful. He noticed things that others missed. Admiral Morrison, he said during a strategy meeting, something is wrong with these readings. The humans are showing us exactly what they want us to see. Morrison was still angry about losing his flagship. What do you mean? Look at their defensive positions. They are too obvious, too easy to find. In every other conquest, the primitives try to hide their weapons. These humans are advertising them. Morrison waved his hand dismissively. You worry too much, Voren. They are still just one world against our entire empire. Dr. Lisa Parker was working day and night with the architect technology in Antarctica. Each day brought new discoveries about humanity's hidden capabilities. Greg, you need to see this, she called to Professor Sullivan. The architects did not just leave us technology, they changed us. The alien computer was showing her genetic information about humans. Subtle changes had been made to human DNA thousands of years ago. These changes made humans better at learning, more creative, and more able to work together under stress. We are not the same species we were when the architects first visited, Lisa said in amazement. They helped us evolve into something new. But why? Greg asked. The answer came in the form of images showing the fall of ancient civilizations. The architects had watched as aggressive species destroyed themselves and peaceful species were conquered. They had been looking for a species that could find balance between peace and war. Commander Helen Brooks was aboard the new Earth vessel Liberty, coordinating humanity's defense preparations. The Liberty was larger than any ship Earth had ever publicly built, but it was only one of dozens hidden throughout the solar system. "Commander," reported Dr. Alex Chen, "we are receiving communications from resistance groups throughout the Empire. Many worlds want to break free from Zeltharian control." Brooks nodded. This was part of Earth's strategy. They were not just preparing to defend themselves, they were preparing to help others fight for freedom. "Send them our support frequencies," Brooks ordered. "When the time comes, they will know how to reach us." Emperor Valdris Keth was growing impatient. Reports from the frontier painted a confusing picture. The humans had destroyed one of his best ships, but they were not attacking his other forces. They seemed to be waiting for something. "Your Majesty," advised his counselor, "perhaps we should negotiate. These humans may be more dangerous than we thought." The Emperor's eyes flashed with anger. "The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. Order the war fleets to assemble. We will crush this world and make an example of them." Director Cross stood in a secret facility built inside the moon. Around him, engineers were making final preparations for Earth's ultimate defense systems. The facility was enormous, stretching for miles through lunar rock. "Sir," reported one of his assistants, "all Prometheus systems are online. We have weapons platforms in 47 different dimensions. Gravity wells are ready for activation. The dimensional fleet is standing by." Cross nodded. Humanity had learned to manipulate the basic forces of the universe. They could control gravity, bend space, and even step outside normal reality when needed. Captain Torres completed his intelligence mission and returned to Earth with crucial information about Imperial capabilities. What he had learned would help Earth prepare for the massive attack that was coming. "The Empire is mobilizing everything," he reported to the War Council. 3 complete battle fleets, over 15,000 ships. They are calling it Operation Cleansing Fire. President Walsh looked around the room at Earth's military leaders. "How long until they arrive?" 6 weeks, Madam President. "Then we have 6 weeks to make final preparations." She turned to address the council. "Humanity has spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. Now we will discover if it was enough." General Hayes activated communication links to hidden bases throughout the solar system. "All units, this is Earth Command. Operation Guardian is now active. Repeat, Operation Guardian is now active." Throughout human space, systems that had been sleeping for decades began to wake up. Weapons charged with power. Ships emerged from hidden dimensions. Ancient architect technology merged with human innovation to create defenses unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Empire thought they were coming to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they were about to discover that humanity had become something far more dangerous than they could imagine. Emperor Valdris Keth stood on the bridge of his super battleship Eternal Dominion, watching the largest war fleet in Imperial history move toward the Sol system. 15,000 ships of every type surrounded his flagship. Behind them came transport, vessels carrying 500 million soldiers. "Today we will teach these humans the price of defying the Empire," the Emperor announced to his officers. "No world has ever defeated us. No world ever will." Admiral Morrison commanded the front section of the attack fleet from his new flagship. He had replaced the ship destroyed at Jupiter with an even larger vessel called Imperial Vengeance. His anger at the humans burned inside him like fire. "Sir, we are approaching the outer edge of their star system," reported his navigation officer. "Sensors show the same defensive positions we detected before." Morrison smiled coldly. "Excellent. This time we will not make the mistake of talking first. All ships, prepare to attack." But as the Imperial fleet moved closer to Earth, something strange happened. The defensive positions they had been tracking simply vanished. Asteroid bases, space stations, weapon platforms. Everything disappeared as if it had never existed. "Where did they go?" Morrison demanded. "Ships do not just disappear." His sensor officer checked and rechecked his instruments. "Sir, I am reading nothing. Empty space where we detected massive installations just moments ago." Far behind the attack fleet, Field Marshal Drac Voran watched the advance with growing concern. He had studied every battle in Imperial history, and he had never seen anything like this. Admiral Helen Brooks coordinated Earth's defense from the command ship Liberty. Unlike the massive Imperial vessels, human ships were sleek and seemed to shimmer in the starlight. "All units, this is Admiral Brooks," she announced over the communication network. "Operation Ghost Dance is now active. Show them what real space combat looks like." Around the solar system, human ships began to phase in and out of normal space. They would appear, fire their weapons, and vanish again before the enemy could respond. To the Imperial forces, it looked like they were fighting ghosts. Captain Ryan Torres commanded a squadron of phase ships attacking the Imperial rearguard. His ship Nightfall could step between dimensions, allowing him to strike anywhere instantly. "Target the supply vessels," Torres ordered his pilots. Without fuel and ammunition, their big ships are just expensive pieces of metal floating in space. The human ships appeared inside the Imperial formation like sharks among fish. Their weapons were unlike anything the Empire had seen. Instead of energy beams or missiles, the humans used gravity itself as a weapon, crushing enemy ships by increasing their weight until they collapsed. Dr. Lisa Parker was working frantically in the Antarctic facility, using architect technology to coordinate Earth's defense. The alien computers were showing her things that seemed impossible. "Greg, look at this," she called to Professor Sullivan. "The architects left us more than just technology. They left us the key to defeating the Empire." On her screen appeared the location of the Empire's homeworld, protected by ancient shields that had never been broken. But the architects had met the early Zeltharians long ago and had built a weakness into their technology. The Emperor's shields depend on a specific quantum frequency, Lisa explained. "If we can match that frequency, we can turn off their defenses completely." General Patricia Hayes was defending Earth itself as Imperial forces tried to land ground troops on the planet. The enemy soldiers discovered that their weapons and armor were useless against Earth's gravity-based defenses. "Sir, our troops cannot advance," reported Colonel Steve Martinez, watching the battle from orbit. "Every time they try to move, their own weight crushes them. The humans are somehow controlling gravity itself." Imperial dropships tried to land in major cities but found themselves suddenly weighing thousands of times more than normal. They crashed into the ground, unable to function under the incredible gravitational pressure. Emperor Valdris Keith watched, his mighty fleet being torn apart by an enemy he could barely see. Human ships appeared and disappeared like phantoms, striking with weapons that seemed to violate the laws of physics. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his scientists. "Matter cannot simply appear and disappear." His chief science advisor looked terrified. "Your Majesty, they seem to be using dimensional manipulation. They can step outside normal space and time." The Emperor felt a cold fear in his chest. In 10,000 years of conquest, the Empire had never faced anything like this. President Catherine Walsh stood in the command center beneath Colorado, watching the battle unfold. Director Nathan Cross stood beside her, coordinating Project Prometheus systems throughout the solar system. "Madam President," Cross reported, "our dimensional weapons are performing beyond expectations. Imperial forces are retreating on all fronts." "What about their superweapons?" Walsh asked. "Our intelligence indicates the Emperor has a planet-killer device hidden in his home system. If he becomes desperate enough, he might try to use it." Admiral Morrison was becoming frantic as his forces suffered massive losses. Human ships were everywhere and nowhere, striking with impossible precision. His navigation officer brought him the worst news yet. "Sir, we have lost contact with 60% of our fleet. The humans are not just defeating us, they are making our ships disappear completely." Morrison stared at his tactical display in horror. Entire squadrons of Imperial ships were simply ceasing to exist. Not exploding, not being destroyed, just vanishing as if they had never been built. Dr. Parker made a crucial discovery as she studied the architect databases. "Greg, I found it. The Empire has a secret weapon that can destroy entire star systems, but I also found how to stop it." The architect computers showed her the location of the weapon and the enslaved psychic beings who powered it. For thousands of years, the Empire had forced these peaceful creatures to channel their mental energy into weapons of mass destruction. Captain Torres led a strike team toward the heart of the Imperial fleet, targeting the Emperor's flagship. His mission was to capture the Emperor and end the war before more lives were lost. "Remember," Torres told his pilots, "we want him alive. Dead Emperors cannot order their forces to surrender." The human ships phased directly through the Imperial shields, appearing inside the Eternal Dominion itself. Imperial guards tried to stop them but found their weapons useless against human armor that could shift between solid and energy states. Field Marshal Vorin, watching the complete collapse of Imperial forces, made a decision that would change galactic history. He secretly contacted Earth forces and offered to provide information about the Empire's superweapon. "I cannot stand by and watch my Emperor destroy innocent worlds," he told Admiral Brooks during a secret communication. "The galaxy deserves better than the Empire's tyranny." General Hayes coordinated the final phase of Earth's counterattack. Liberation fleets launched toward dozens of Imperial worlds, carrying a simple message: freedom is coming. As the battle reached its climax, Emperor Valdris Keth made a desperate decision. If he could not defeat the humans with conventional weapons, he would use the forbidden technology hidden in his home system. "Contact the homeworld," he ordered. "Activate the reality engine. If I cannot rule the galaxy, then no one will." Admiral Brooks intercepted the Emperor's transmission and realized what he was planning. The reality engine could destroy entire sectors of space, killing billions of innocent beings on thousands of worlds. "All units," she announced. "Priority target is now the Imperial superweapon. We have to stop them before they can use it." Captain Torres received new orders as he fought his way toward the Emperor's throne room. The mission had changed from capture to something far more urgent. The fate of the entire galaxy now depended on reaching the Emperor before he could activate a weapon that would destroy everything humanity was fighting to protect. As human ships prepared for their most dangerous mission yet, the Emperor's finger moved toward the activation switch for the reality engine. Time was running out, and the next few minutes would determine whether the galaxy would be free or become a graveyard floating in space. Emperor Valdris Keth's hand moved toward the activation switch for the reality engine. His face was twisted with rage and desperation as he watched his mighty fleet being destroyed by the humans. If he could not rule the galaxy, he would make sure no one else could either. "Your Majesty, please reconsider," begged his science advisor. "The reality engine will destroy everything within 1,000 light years. Billions of innocent beings will die. Better to rule over ashes than bow to primitives," the Emperor snarled. Captain Ryan Torres burst through the doors of the throne room with his strike team just as the Emperor's fingers touched the control panel. Time seemed to slow as Torres raised his weapon. "Stop," Torres shouted. "One more. Move and you die." The Emperor smiled coldly. "Too late, human. The signal has already been sent." Across the galaxy, on the heavily guarded Imperial homeworld, the reality engine began to power up. This massive device had been built using the forced labor of psychic beings, captured from peaceful worlds. For thousands of years, these innocent creatures had been chained to machines that amplified their mental energy into weapons of mass destruction. Dr. Lisa Parker, working with Architect Technology in Antarctica, detected the activation signal immediately. "Greg, he did it. The Emperor activated the superweapon." Professor Sullivan looked at the data streaming across their screens. "How long do we have?" "The reality engine needs 30 minutes to reach full power. After that, it will destroy everything in this part of the galaxy." Admiral Helen Brooks received the warning just as her fleet engaged the Emperor's remaining forces. She had to make an impossible choice: continue fighting the Imperial fleet or race across the galaxy to stop a weapon that could kill trillions. "All units, new priority target," she announced. "We are going to the Imperial homeworld. Earth's survival depends on stopping that weapon." Director Nathan Cross activated Project Prometheus systems that had never been used before. City-sized, ships emerged from parallel dimensions, appearing throughout the galaxy simultaneously. These vessels had been humanity's ultimate secret, hidden in spaces between reality itself. Field Marshal Drac Vorin, who had been secretly helping Earth forces, transmitted the exact location and defenses of the reality engine. "The weapon is protected by 3 layers of shields," he reported. But there is a weakness. The psychic beings powering it are not willing participants. If they are freed, the weapon will shut down automatically. President Catherine Walsh made the most important decision in human history. All liberation fleets proceed to Imperial space. We are not just saving ourselves anymore. We are saving the galaxy. Captain Torres kept his weapon trained on the Emperor while his team secured the throne room. "You can still stop this," he told the desperate ruler. "Send the shutdown codes." Emperor Valdris Keth laughed bitterly. "I would rather Dython surrendered to you, then you will die," Torres replied calmly. "But first you will watch as we save everyone you tried to destroy." Meanwhile, Admiral Brooks led her fastest ships toward the Imperial homeworld. Using dimensional gates opened by architect technology, they could travel across the galaxy in minutes instead of years. Dr. Parker discovered something incredible as she studied the architect data. "Greg, the psychic beings powering the reality engine are not just prisoners. They are the architect's children." The peaceful race that had helped humanity long ago had been captured by the Empire and forced to power their weapons. For millennia, these gentle beings had been living in torment, their incredible mental abilities twisted into tools of destruction. "We have to save them," Lisa said with determination. The human liberation fleet arrived at the Imperial homeworld just as the reality engine reached 50% power. The massive device was built into the planet's core, protected by shields that had never been broken. General Patricia Hayes led the assault on the planetary defenses. "All ships, target the shield generators. We need to get our people to that weapon." Human ships phased through the Imperial shields like they were made of air. The defenders found themselves fighting an enemy that could appear anywhere, strike with impossible precision, and vanish before they could respond. Captain Torres transmitted the Emperor's surrender codes to his fleet, but the reality engine continued charging. The weapon had been designed to complete its cycle even if the Emperor changed his mind. Dr. Parker used the architect technology to communicate directly with the imprisoned psychic beings. What she found broke her heart. Thousands of peaceful creatures chained to machines for centuries begging for death to end their suffering. "Hold on," she whispered to them across space. "Help is coming." Admiral Brooks led her strike team directly into the core of the reality engine facility. What they found was a horror beyond imagination. Gentle beings with faces like ancient Earth dolphins, their minds connected to massive machines that turned their natural empathy into destructive force. "Cut the power connections," Brooks ordered her team. "Get those chains off them." As the human soldiers worked to free the prisoners, something amazing happened. The psychic beings began to use their combined mental power in a new way. Instead of destruction, they channeled their abilities into healing and protection. The reality engine, designed to destroy, suddenly began to reverse its process. The massive energies that would have wiped out billions of lives instead created waves of peace and restoration that spread across the galaxy. Field Marshal Vorin, watching from his command ship, felt tears on his face as he witnessed the end of the Empire's reign of terror. Across thousands of worlds, the devices used to control enslaved populations simply stopped working. Emperor Valdris Keth watched his empire crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from every sector, worlds declaring independence, fleets refusing orders, governors surrendering to human liberation forces. "It is over," Captain Torres told him simply. "Your empire is finished." The Emperor aged 10 years in 10 seconds as the reality of his defeat sank in. The greatest military force in galactic history had been destroyed by a single world that most of his people had never heard of. President Walsh addressed the galaxy from Earth, her words carried by every communication system on every world. To all beings who have suffered under Imperial rule, you are free. To all species who have lost hope, hope has returned. To all worlds that dream of peace, that dream is now reality. The liberated psychic beings, using their incredible mental abilities, began the work of healing the damage done by centuries of Imperial rule. Poisoned worlds became green again. Broken spirits found strength. Separated families were reunited. Across vast distances, Dr. Parker stood in the Antarctic facility, watching as the architect technology completed its final gift to humanity. The ancient computers showed her visions of the future, a galaxy where different species worked together, where knowledge was shared freely, where war was a memory from a darker time. Admiral Brooks established the Galactic Liberation Council, with representatives from every free world. The headquarters was built not on Earth, but on a station that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, symbolizing unity across all realities. Captain Torres accepted the surrender of the Imperial fleet and began the long process of integrating former enemy soldiers into the new galactic order. Many of them had been forced to serve against their will and welcomed the chance to help build something better. The story of the Galactic Empire's defeat spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. The ancient warning about Terran space was updated. In every database, the Third World burns brightest, not in destruction, but in the light of freedom they bring to those who have forgotten what it means to be free. Emperor Valdris Keth spent his remaining years in a comfortable prison, writing memoirs that served as a warning to future generations about the dangers of unchecked power and the price of arrogance. Field Marshal Voren became the first director of Galactic Reconciliation, helping former imperial worlds transition to freedom and self-governance. Earth remained protected by its advanced defenses, but those same technologies were now shared with any species that proved they would use them to protect rather than dominate. Humanity had learned that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when destruction was necessary and when mercy was stronger. The galaxy that had once trembled under imperial rule now celebrated the diversity of its countless species. Trade flourished, knowledge advanced, and for the first time in 10,000 years, children on distant worlds could sleep peacefully, knowing that freedom was not just a dream. The sleeping giants had awakened not to conquer, but to liberate, and the galaxy was forever changed.